I believe ChatGPT is the best tool currently available to help plan a training block. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I use it to improve my performance. I'll show you the whole process from start to finish so that you too can start to leverage the almighty power of AI into your training. I mean, how else are you going to outrun all the killer robots that will eventually set upon us if you don't follow these instructions? To do this, all you really need is access to ChatGPT, which currently is free. However, I've found that having my running watch has been crucial. The better the data you can feed in, the better the results it's going to give you. So this has been a really useful tool. I'll speak through how I get the data from the watch into the AI later on. You're also going to want to set up a dedicated spreadsheet so you can track everything. Personally, I use Google Sheets just because it's easy to sync it across all my devices, but really any sort of spreadsheet will do. In terms of the formatting for this, we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Obviously, you need to give it somewhere to start, so just feed in any info you already have. A bit about your fitness level, any PBs you've achieved recently, maybe some details about what training you're doing now, just so GPT can work out your level.
You're also going to want to define some training goals. At the moment for me, I'm preparing for some cycling events in the summer, so my training's been focused on that, but I also don't want to lose my running fitness, so I've been kind of keeping that at a sort of maintenance level. But the goals could be anything from running your first 5K to really specific time-based goals. It's really up to you.
I also specify how much time I have for training. I train most days, but if you wanted 3 runs a week or something, you should specify that. Similarly, if you only want long runs to be on weekends, you need to tell it. Once you've fed in all this info, you then want to ask it to generate your plan, including intervals, target paces, target heart rates, distances, things like that.
When I first started experimenting with ChatGPT for my training, I was getting it to generate workouts every day, but really what's a much better approach is to have it generate an entire plan, spanning a few weeks, because that way the lessons will kind of support each other, and it will also factor in things like recovery, progressive overload, and it will just be a more coherent plan overall. You want this plan to be generated in spreadsheet form, which brings me on to my next step. As I mentioned before, you're going to want to set up a spreadsheet to help plan your training and record how everything goes. ChatGPT does have a memory function, and I recommend switching that on because it just means you have to repeat yourself less. But on the free version, it's quite tightly capped. By having a spreadsheet, it means that you can copy and paste weeks of workout history into ChatGPT to help it contextualize your next block or see how your training's going overall. And it's also just nice to have a visual representation of where you are in your training block.
I like to have mine split in 2 halves. Prescribed sessions on the left and completed work on the right. I then mark sessions green if I've nailed them, amber if I missed an interval or had to change something, and red if I flat out missed that session. This doesn't actually make any difference to ChatGPT itself. I just like seeing all the green sessions. On the completed side, I recommend having a space for some notes so you can report back on how the session went. Did you complete all the training specified? Was something more or less difficult than you'd expected? Any injuries you're nursing, etc. I also have average heart rate, max heart rate, acute and chronic training load, more on these in a sec, and RPE, or rate of perceived exertion.
Most of these metrics are pretty obvious to record. The one that's maybe not is acute and chronic training load. The reason you want to record that is so that you have some measure of fatigue. I find these numbers quite hard to find on Garmin Connect, so I'll show you how you find it on the watch itself. If you don't use a Garmin watch, I'm sure that other watches and things have an equivalent figure, so just use that instead. To find your acute and chronic training loads, you want to first find this glance here, training status. If you haven't got this on your screen, you may need to add it as a new glance. Enter in here, go down one, and you'll see this. Click into this one, right down to the bottom, and here you have it, acute and chronic training loads. These are what I enter on the spreadsheet to keep a monitor of my fatigue. You'll maybe spot 2 other columns on the spreadsheet that you're not sure about, GPTES and GPTSUM. These are metrics that I've essentially created myself. GPTES just stands for GPT Execution Score, and GPTSUM is ChatGPT summary. So for the execution score, I ask it to give me a score out of 100 for how well the session that I executed matches the intended stimulus. And for GPT summary, that's, I mean, as it sounds, that's really just a few sentences from ChatGPT to summarize how the session went in its view. To get ChatGPT to remember to produce these metrics, you need to have the memory switched on, which I mentioned before, and then just type in, this is what you want. You want GPTES to be an execution score, GPTSUM to be a summary at the end of every workout, and it should just keep giving you those then whenever you feed in a new workout. Okay, so as you can see, my session for today is a 45-minute easy run zone 2. So let me get out and do that, and then I'll show you how I feed the data back into ChatGPT. If it's just an easy or recovery run like it is today, I normally just run off the data on the watch screen, but if it's intervals, you'll need to create a workout in Garmin Connect. Okay, so from the home screen here, if you wanted to create a custom workout, all you do is go over to training and planning here, workouts, and then you'll need to select the type of workout that you want. We obviously want to run, and click create workout. From here, you can edit these blocks or add new blocks in, etc., to fit the workout that ChatGPT's given you. To send this workout to your watch, if I go into one that I made before, once you've constructed the workout you want, it looks something like this. You click send to device, and then you want to sync your watch to your phone, and it should have this new workout now programmed in automatically. Okay, let me get this run in the bag, and then I'll show you the next steps. Okay, back in from the run now, and it's time to pull the relevant info from Garmin Connect into the spreadsheet. So you can see where we are here. This is the Garmin Connect homepage. Sometimes your run will come up on this side here, but if it doesn't, you can go into all activities, and here she is here. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, this is where you're going to get most of the info that you need. If you remember, we have a few different metrics that we're going to be tracking. So the first thing I'll do is enter my notes. Now, this was just a kind of 45-minute steady zone 2 easy run for me, so not much to report. Run completed as planned. If I'd had intervals as part of this workout and I hadn't managed to complete them all, or if I'd had any other issues, this is where I would enter this information. Okay, so next up we're going to be taking our heart rate data, which you can find here. So 144 average, 165 max, just put that in here. The ATL and CTL you can find on the watch, as I showed you earlier. So for me just now, after that run, it's looking like this. And the RPE for this run, I think I set it to 3. So it was pretty easy, to be fair. 3. Okay, so that's our spreadsheet up to date with the info we can pull directly from Garmin Connect. The next step is we want to copy all of this across into ChatGPT itself. I'm going to ask it, please evaluate this run, and that's the details. However, there's a lot of data that the watch has collected that's not displayed on this page. To find it, what you want to do is go back up to the top, and you'll see this tiny little cog icon. If you click this and you want to go export splits to CSV, what that's going to do is it's going to create a file which has basically all the data is logged. What we're going to do is open this up, and this is all our information here. Now, at the moment, it looks a bit like gobbledygook, but when we copy this into ChatGPT, it'll understand what's going on. Sometimes it has it as a spreadsheet, just copy that in if needed. So CSV file, and copy here. Occasionally it'll try and add this data as an attachment as well as just in the prompt box. If it does that, just delete the attachment, because you only get so many attachment uploads a day and the data's already in the prompt box anyway, so you're just double handling it basically. Okay, so ChatGPT is now going to analyze this, and you can see it's given me really kind of solid feedback on what I did. It's analyzing all the pacing, it's looking at what was going on physiologically, and giving me a pretty good kind of rundown of how I performed. Now at the bottom here you see our GPTES and GPTSUM. As I mentioned before, this is how well the workout hit the intended stimulus, and then a short summary. So I normally copy this across, and I just remember the number 88 in this case. So 88 goes here, GPTSUM goes here. And the last step, and by far the most satisfying, is to color this run in green. I've completed it as specified, I've hit the stimulus, and it's been a successful session overall. And obviously you want your entire spreadsheet to be green by the end of your block. Occasionally you may want to enter the graph, the actual graph here, instead of just the numbers. I don't find that I have to do this very often, but if you ever do, you can just screenshot this and then add it in as an attachment. A good trick can be to open this up in full view, and then if you go up here to no overlay, you can add in a second metric field. So for example, if I wanted my heart rate and my pace, there we go, and then I can screenshot this like so. I can drop this into ChatGPT and upload it like that. Like I said though, you only get so many uploads a day on the free version, so you want to try and do this as efficiently as possible. I normally find just adding the CSV file is fine. Now, I do just want to cover off a couple of things in terms of warnings for doing this. Firstly, as you probably know, ChatGPT can hallucinate, they call it. I have had it where it's given me some absolutely outrageous sessions, you know, intervals that are way too hard or way too long or whatever. So you do need to slightly know what you're doing in order to spot these. Normally, if you push back and say, are you sure about that? It will correct itself quite quickly. But if you don't push back on it, then you know, you would never find out. So you do need to have some idea of what you're doing to spot that. However, having said that, there's also been times when ChatGPT's given me a workout or a session and it seems like a stretch, but because it's got so much data, it actually is quite good at predicting even kind of stretch goals. An example of this is when I was running a 5K PB, ChatGPT was looking at my data and going, yeah, I think you can run a sub 20-minute 5K. And I was thinking, that seems really fast to me. I decided to go for a more conservative goal, and then on the day, I absolutely smashed that conservative goal with my heart rate relatively low, so I definitely could have gone faster. So you do sometimes need to trust it. So what I'm saying is, approach it with skepticism, but have some trust as well. Comparing ChatGPT to Garmin Coach, which I've also used in the past, this could be an entire video of itself, but the main strokes are this. I believe that ChatGPT gives you better sessions. I think the training blocks are constructed better. And if you're ever unsure why you're doing something, you can directly ask it and it'll give you a reason that this is what we're trying to achieve with this workout, which you can't really do with Garmin. Similarly, I mentioned before that I've been splitting my workouts between cycling and running. This is something that I found difficult on Garmin, whereas on ChatGPT it's absolutely fine. And if you were doing, say for example, strength training, running, cycling as well, swimming, whatever, I don't see any reason really why ChatGPT couldn't give you a plan in which all these workouts are structured to support each other. Where Garmin Coach wins out is just easiness. You don't really need to do anything. It'll give you suggested workouts every day. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously a bit of a faff having spreadsheets and having to copy and paste data left, right, and center. If I was just running purely with the goal of staying moderately fit and I wasn't chasing a particular target, I would probably just go with the suggested workouts and you'd be fine. I do also think, though this is pure speculation on my end, that Garmin will at some point integrate a sort of ChatGPT-esque training coach system. It seems to me like an absolute no-brainer to do that, and I reckon they must be losing people off the service like me. So yeah, I reckon they'll bring something like this to the table at some point in the near future. Just my speculation. In terms of other services like Runner, I've never used Runner, so it wouldn't be fair for me to comment on its efficacy or its comparison to ChatGPT. However, if you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to see if people have used both of these services and what they found the strengths and weaknesses of each were. Likewise, if you already use ChatGPT for your training and you have any tips that I've not covered, please leave them in the comments below for other people to find. I'm constantly optimizing this process that I've kind of come up with, so I'm sure that it's not in its final form yet and people may have some top tips and things that I've missed. It's worth mentioning too, I'm not a trained PT, I'm just an enthusiastic amateur doing my best. If you have any questions or if you're having difficulties replicating this for yourself, leave a comment down below. I answer every comment, so just let me know what you're stuck on and I'll do my best to help. And while you're down there, just do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.